Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the VELOGAMES Liege Bastogne Liege, the fourth monument of the year and the last Category 1 race for a very long time. I think the next one would be the Olympics or something like that. So it's going to be an important one to try and get correct. I've been slipping and sliding the last couple of races in Amstel and La Flèche-Wallonne, so I could really do with a good one here. So let's try and think logically about this. Pogacar, I think, is really the one who I've had absolute certainty that I'm going to put Pogacar on my team throughout this whole period. Is that he's won this race before. If it is going to be a little bit cold and wet, which the forecast seems to predict it's going to be a little bit, not as bad as La Flèche-Wallonne, but still not brilliant. I think that Pogacar is, the man who really excels in those sorts of conditions. So Pogacar's just like a no-brainer for me. He's in there no matter what. Van der Poel is the weird one where I don't think a lot of people will pick him, but he is still in with a decent shout of doing something. It's not out of the question that he could be in a second group still contesting for, the minor placings, if we're saying that Pogacar just solos off into the distance and that's it. Van der Poel could still podium if he's in a group behind and he's sprinting for second and third. So I don't think you can write Van der Poel off, but there's just a lot of other options who are cheaper, who might be half the price, a third of the price, who may do better than him. Hirschi, you could go with the Paris-Roubaix strategy of go with Pogacar, get Hirschi in there to get the assist points and wherever Hirschi also finishes up. Because Pogacar might go from further out, maybe not wanting to leave it too late in case Van der Poel is able to hang on. So Hirschi's not a bad shout in that regard because he gets the assist points and maybe he's still in a second group or a third group and, a top 10 plus assist points might not be that bad. But you could also go with Pidcock, who's likely to be, the leader for the Ineos Grenadiers. He won Amstel ahead of Hirschi, obviously. We all remember that. I didn't have him on my team, rather, unfortunately. But Pidcock is a good choice. He was on the podium of his race last year. He's won Amstel. He didn't finish La Flèche-Wallonne, but neither did a lot of the riders who we're going to be talking about today. So I can't hold that too heavily against him. Otherwise, most of the riders we will just say aren't good picks because not many people finished at La Flèche-Wallonne. So Pidcock winning Amstel, I think that Amstel is almost a better reflection as to what Liege Bastogne Liege is like. It's just more frequent and shorter climbs. So yeah, I think that Pidcock is a good shout. Absolutely. He could top 5 or podium this race for sure. Benoit's just a safe top 10, in all honesty. I think Benoit's just a real safe one to be going with. So no problems with that. Madouas I probably wouldn't go with. They seem to, I don't know, Gregoire was higher finishing in La Flèche-Wallonne. Madouas was up there in Amstel Gold, but he didn't seem to, he finished towards the back end of that group, so I'm not confident in Madouas for this race. Maybe he'll come top 15. That seems to be where his finishing position is at the moment. Matthews, I think a lot of people might write Matthews off, but again, very similar to Van der Poel, if he can make it into a second group, if there's a bit of a group 2 dynamics and things come back together. If Matthews is in there, we know that he pretty much just wins from the group behind in whatever group he's in. So it's not out of the question, I think, that Michael Matthews could podium this race if he gets into that second group. So, it might be a bit of a tenuous expectation, but I think it's worthwhile mentioning that Matthews, maybe, I don't think he's the first name who springs to people's minds from in a VELOGAMES perspective, but he's always the one who might just continuously just score you a top 10 or a top 5. So don't write Matthews off too quickly in your decision making. 20 credit riders, I'd say that Skelmoser is the best of these, but to be honest with you, I think every one of these 20 credit riders has question marks over it. So Skelmoser, I just think he didn't finish La Flèche-Wallonne, but Pidcock didn't either, so I can't hold that against him. Amstel Gold, I think he and a lot of other riders like Van Hills and Kuznetsov, etc. were looking at Van der Poel as the main man, and therefore they ended up essentially just looking themselves into the abyss. They missed the winning move because they were so focused on Van der Poel. So I can't really take that Amstel Gold race performance as gospel either. So therefore, I'm still not sure where to judge Skelmos's format. Obviously, he's been very good this year. And as long as he just... I don't think he got hypothermia, but as long as he's recovered fine, then from La Flèche Wallonne, then he should be a good pick, in all honesty, and probably the best 20 credit rider. Healy, I'm not confident about. For some reason, he just hasn't really been his Ardennes Classics at the moment. Again, but you could also say, you know, Amstel, he was working for Vandenberg, and he didn't finish La Flèche Wallonne, but like I already said, not a lot of people did. So maybe Healy could launch a bit of a surprise. Vlasov, very similarly. He has done, he's only done this race like twice, and I think he finished like 17th, but I remember that was an edition where he got caught late, and he would have finished on the podium. I think it was the one where Quentin Hermans came second and Wout came third. So Vlasov could certainly be alright as well. Yates, I wouldn't pick. I expect that if Yates is in a position in the front, I expect that he'll be pulling to try and help Matthews, because I think that's a better shout for them to get a better result for Jacob Alula. 18 credit riders, I think Kuznefroy is really good, and I think that Dylan Turns is good as well. You could say Cerncrow, but I do think they'll be in for Van der Poel. And yeah, all the other ones, like maybe Carapaz, maybe, but he was in a good position in La Flèche Wallonne, and then he just like dropped pretty hard, so I'm not overly confident about Carapaz. Bilbao, again, lots of riders for Bahrain here who could do quite well, including ones coming off of the Tour of the Alps, so hopefully you've been doing your homework and watching that race as well. But overall, Kuznefroy is the safest 18 credit rider. Then it's probably Turns. He didn't finish La Flèche Wallonne again. And yeah, he missed the move as well in Amstel Gold. But Brabant Sipel, he looked really good. They do also have Stephen Williams here as well. So yeah, Turns is a weird one, because I definitely think he could definitely just pull out a top 10 or a top 5 in this race. Just kind of seemingly out of nowhere, because he's been a little bit inconspicuous the last two races, whereas Kuznefroy has been a bit more visible. And Kuznefroy definitely seems like the leader for Decathlon. All the other 18 credit riders, like you could argue a Bilbao or, you know, a Carapaz, but I think that Kuznefroy and Turns are the best ones. You could also say Ulissi for the exact same reasoning that I gave for Hershey earlier. 16 credit riders, the best one is Maxime Van Hils, without a doubt. Although if it is going to be a little bit cold, maybe Schoins, but I expect he'll be working for Skelmos, so Van Hils makes the most sense, considering that he seemed to deal with the cold okay. You know, he finished third at La Flèche Wallonne, so he's obviously having a really good year. So I think Van Hils is great. Guillaume Martin actually finished like 6th or 7th in this race last year, which is a very under the radar performance. He was, you know, he was up there in La Flèche Wallonne, so strangely enough, Guillaume Martin isn't the worst choice in the world. He's, dare I say, I mean, Tobias Hall and Johannesson, but Guillaume Martin is probably like a top 3 candidate for the 16 credit riders. You could say that. Bardet's coming off the Tour of the Alps. He was looking decent there, not fantastic, so that's why I'm not really blowing too much praise his way. But yeah, Tobias Hall and Johannesson as well. He was up there in La Flèche Wallonne. Could he finish top 10? Yes. Top 15? Yeah, probably that's a bit more likely. So yeah, I'd say Van Hils is your best one for sure. 14 credit riders, you got Bernal. Might just be working for Pidcock, but he's had a very good year, so I'll give him a shout out anyway. Maybe if Pidcock isn't on the best day, Bernal might get the nod and he could finish top 10 if that were the case. Boitlago I really like, 14 credits. He was good the other day. I think that Bahrain should really be rallying around him rather than anybody else on the Bahrain victorious team, because Boitlago was good the other day and he finished on the podium in this race last year. So I think he is a good choice at 14 credits as well. Gregoire is a good choice as well, because he's quite fast in the finish. So if he is in a second or a third group, he's going to be sprinting for some of the better minor positions. So that's certainly something worthwhile mentioning. Look, Senko did good in the Giro d'Abruzzo, of course winning that, putting UAE team Emirates in a box. He's never really done well in this race though, so that's what's really putting me off putting him on. It's just a bit too risky when I've got the nice easy options of a Gregoire and a Boitlago. Lutsenko just seems a little bit too risky for me, but if you are looking for somebody to have that differential to maybe launch yourself up the standings, Lutsenko could be that guy for you. 12 credit riders. Felix Gall has done well in the Giro and the Tour de Doub, which are those 2 races. He did good in both of those, so yeah, he could definitely do something. But Decathlon seems to have a lot of options, including APP, who just won the last stage of Tour of the Alps, and they've also got Kuznetsov. So I really don't know who they're going to be going with. I'd say that I'd stay away from these 2 just because I expect they'd be working for Kuznetsov more than anything, because he's the faster in a finish. So more than likely they'd work for him. Jai Hindley, you could argue as well, could be decent in this race. If Vlasov's not great, he would be a real like Hail Mary attempt to try and get up the standings, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was top 10, top 15. Wout Poels as well, coming off a Tour of the Alps, he was just okay there. You know, nothing outstanding. He wasn't like setting the world alight, but it's worthwhile mentioning him nonetheless because Bahrain have so many options to deploy here. The best 10 credit rider is Stephen Williams, and you shouldn't really look past him at all because he won La Flèche Wallonne, incredible form, so he's obviously going really well. Maybe you might put on Laurence for the assist points on Van der Poel if you think that's going to happen. But other than them, I don't know, maybe Aliotti as well, you could provide an argument for. Roger Adlia, I had him on for La Flèche Wallonne. He didn't do that great, so I'm probably going to avoid him for this round. Other 8 credit riders, I would say, Taberi for Cat Murderer. He was actually quite good in Tour of the Alps. It wouldn't surprise me if he did good in this race. But obviously some people won't put him on because of, the ethics of him killing a cat. That's fair. But I'm just saying, from a VELOGAMES perspective, he might be alright. And we'll just leave it there. And then of course, Kevin Vauquelin, who finished second at La Flèche Wallonne, which really annoyed me because I had him on for Amstel. He got dropped, and I'm like, well, he's clearly not going to do good in La Flèche Wallonne because he's not suited towards that finish. That was wrong because then he finished second. So clearly he's in fantastic form. Kevin Vauquelin is almost somebody you need in your team because he just seems to be in insane form, like form of his life. 6 credit riders, there's a couple who I like. There's, of course, thank you for the pronunciation suggestions, Jordan Jaja. There you go. That's the correct pronunciation. He's good because he was like he was 15th, 14th at La Flèche Wallonne, so maybe he comes top 20, top 25 in Liège. Paul Lepera as well, very good option for Decathlon, but as I've said, they've got so many options where I don't know whether he'll get any freedom or whether they'll just be all in for Kuznetsov. So therefore, Jaja is a safer option in that regard. And then the other 6s, honestly, I probably wouldn't be picking them. I'd probably just go with either one of those 2 because they're clearly head and shoulders above the rest. 4 credit riders, you could go De Pretto. He might finish top 30 and he might get assist points on Michael Matthews. So that's like the reasoning behind him. And maybe you could go for Rajovic if you think that the Bahrain boys might do well. You could go for Rees if you think that Vauquelin's going to do well. Or you could go for Archie Ryan for a Hail Mary finishing inside the top 30. But I would likely say that De Pretto is the best because I think that Matthews has the best shot of finishing on the podium. Either him or Rees, depending on who you think is going to do better. Anyway, this video is so long. This is my team. Pogacar, Skelmos, Boitlago, Van Hils, Stephen Williams and Vauquelin. We're going with a largely pure form related team in terms of Vauquelin, Williams and Van Hils. That is the podium from La Flèche Wallonne, so I think that one of those should be doing well. Boitlago looked good at La Flèche Wallonne, and I think he should be one of the leaders for Bahrain in this race for Liège. And then Poggy, because it's Poggy. And then Skelmos is the only one I have a slight question mark over, but I've had him on for the last 2 races, and I just know for a matter of fact, Sod's Law dictates, if I take him off for this race, he will go and finish on the podium. So therefore, I might just stick with him, and just, I'm in too deep with Skelmos, so we may as well just fully commit to the bit. But let me know what you're thinking in the comment section down below. Be sure to drop your teams down there. I am going to be recording a podcast episode with Dan and Irfan later today, so be sure to stick around and check out that. That'll be more of the discussion type, deep diving into what we think is going to happen. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Salut!